time seeing this, man. We definitely didn't show up earlier, but, you know, just as it's as predictable as we're coming up now, the Florida Mayhem, obviously, favorites by the desk. For good reason, Moxie. I mean, they dominated the Pro-Am.
Yeah, they dominated the Pro-Am. They're obviously coming in with RuPaul as well on that support lineup. They've got someone who is just such a stellar Winston, Merritt, who is just a monster on the hit scan. One player, though, that we have to talk about, that wasn't really mentioned, is Sauna. He is making his Overwatch League debut. We got to see him play once in the Pro-Am, where he was unfortunately still subbed in for Checkmate a lot of the time. He literally landed, played one game the day afterwards against Trick Room, and then we didn't really get to see him since. So I'm hoping that maybe we're going to see something a little bit different come through from Florida Mayhem. I was talking to you a little bit earlier before the broadcast about my specific feelings on why we're going to be seeing him come through, given that Checkmate has the same hero pool. I think it's more so that Sauna can play potentially into what Vancouver Titans are going to be fielding into, which could potentially be something like a Zarya. So if a Zarya tries to aggressively push onto your backline, Sauna, who has had experience when he played all the way for Contenders in 2021, I believe it was for EXO, was known as a Tracer player who would literally duel out off tanks to keep his backline safe.
Yeah, an incredibly talented player overall and has quite the diverse hero pool. And this is our third match of the day, and everything kind of culminating, you know, towards those qualifiers of the mid-season tournament. And Moxie, you called it. I mean, we were already seeing Punk potentially lock that Zarya, but, you know, maybe we didn't think that Mayhem would do something similar, especially with the likes of someone.
Yeah, they're going to mirror it. It looks like I'm expecting Merritt to swap off the Symmetra onto the Sombra. Once they've been able to set up that early TP, this is all about getting that point control as quickly as possible. The Vancouver Titans, they need to be able to try and isolate out one of these targets mid-rotation. Sugar-Free on that Reaper is going to have Punk's bubbles to allow him to go as aggressive as possible. And Crimzo, if he gets jumped on, he has that fade to be able to last himself alive.
Interesting. So they actually roll out with the Sojourn instead of that Sombra. While Spire actually swap back towards the spawn. So they don't want to take this first fight, maybe give up the point even, but with time on the board, you know, 10 seconds left before the point unlocks, Florida Mayhem have time to just wait it out. So do the Titans. So they're not entirely in a position where they have to rush in just yet. They're going to wait it out. In fact, going to give up this point potentially first. No, okay, they actually do come in. They bubble up. Sugar-Free to go deep into that backline. Originally, both Reapers are forced to fade out of it, while Mayhem, they capture that point first. Vancouver Titans kind of playing on the outside, but that results in someone who is high charge finding that first pick, and the Vancouver Titans desperately trying to reset.
Yeah, Mayhem win that. The second that we see Titans not being able to take control of that point, because if Mayhem get pressured, they have the point to be able to fall back onto. Titans, if they want to pressure the point, not only are they walking into someone, they're also walking into Sauna around the corner, who's going to play up close and personal with those Reaper shotguns to make sure he does as much damage as possible. Titans now coming in, they took more poke damage, so they are pretty close to the Coalescence to open things up, and Mayhem not running that Sombra does mean you're going to see the full extent of the Moira ultimate, and Titans want to get aggressive with this and pressure Mayhem, but someone comes in with the Graviton. Coalescence is about to run out. They don't have the sustain to keep Titans standing.
No, and with the amplification matrix, they can also sustain through it. I mean, Titans only had that cold to work with, could not build up any ultimates, and now they've already built 50% on the board. Florida Mayhem really only just had to use the Graviton Surge and the amplification matrix. Meanwhile, Punk really not doing a great job building towards that grab. However, these fights have been happening so quickly, it's been incredibly difficult for that Zarya player to get value. Meanwhile, Crimzo swaps over to that Ana off of the Moira. They're going to come into this fight with that beat drop versus Korong potentially soon, unless Florida Mayhem, they go for this first fight very, very fast with the beat drop of Korong. At the same time, Aspire with that alt fire charged up did pick off Merritt, so that's a great opening pick. And also the anti-grenade connects on Asana before he could fade. They have the follow-up damage. He assumed he would get the beat drop, but Vancouver Titans have capitalized. However, at the same time, they're forced to use that graph because someone in Korong, they're almost equalizing it. So at the same time, while they do win this fight, the Vancouver Titans will come through this point. However, Florida Mayhem, you know, 93% of the board is not bad.
Yeah, that's really good for Mayhem, because Titans now in a really rough spot. They have to continue retaining control, not just of this point, but of this choke. But they can't throw in all of their ultimates to be able to do so. Otherwise, Mayhem are just going to bundle up and death or blitz their way onto that point. As Aspire comes under a lot of pressure, Bubble goes down onto Sauna. Immortality Field invested as well to make sure the Death Blossom does find its target. But Aspire comes in with the overclock, gets taken down almost immediately, but has been able to remove with the Reaper, and this allows Titans to actually close up the distance. This is where the Brawl composition wants to play, close. And the Reaper being out of the mix allowed them to get aggressive, even though they lost the Spy, even though the Overclock only finds one target. It's enough, and Titans live on.
Fantastic work from the Titans, but they still, like you mentioned, have a massive hill to climb, and they try to push in with this amplification matrix, maybe build up someone's graviton surge. They rotate towards the coastal side to avoid this beat or this push off the map from Faith. Boop could come through, however, not able to find it as someone just has a strong position, actually pumping Sugar Free in the backline, who's sitting with this Death Blossom and ready to go with it. Actually, if caught in the graviton surge, can trade back one, but it isn't more than that. So Florida Mayhem threw that grab from someone in the follow-up amplification matrix from Rupel. 94% on the board now. I'm not sure if Vancouver Titans can recontest. More than likely not, resulting in the Florida Mayhem winning round number 1.
Yeah, control point, unfortunately, it's just so hard to recover from, right? The fact that Mayhem had that early advantage with their rotation going towards the point, Titans just lost so much point percentage with Mayhem being able to throw the ultimates in to be able to stall and stagger those fights out for as long as they possibly wanted. And to the control center, it's going to be the exact same thing. Different compositions potentially coming through, as this is the indoor map, so May does start to become a little bit more meta, especially if you're taking the fight around those side lanes where you have the wall and you can try and isolate these targets down. Even if you catch Punk out of position, he's going to be stuck with the ceiling, he's not going to be able to punch his way out, and Titans, even if they're running something like a BAP, aren't going to be able to jump over the wall and lamp either.
And now Florida Mayhem probably going to go to rush through, and Moxie, you've always been one to detest the Reinhardt. Maybe we'll see if it's going to work versus Titans, who are thinking with a Doomfist in this situation, maybe going to build up that Ana ultimate. At the same time, Florida Mayhem are aware of that composition, try to stuff it at the choke, and at the same time, Titans go for that aggressive trade back Rupel, but at the same time, they've lost faith in Crimzo, so even though the dive was successful, they left their backline in the dust, and Florida Mayhem capitalized, giving them surely this first fight win.
Yeah, this is why when we normally see a composition like this, it's the backline that suffers, right? Punk goes for that really aggressive dive with the Spire and Sugar Free right past someone. It's almost ships in the night passing for both of these tanks. But like you said, Mayhem are a little bit more coordinated. They're running Rupel on the Kiriko, so if you get pressured, you have the Swift Step and Suzu to save yourself, as opposed to Titans, who have a nade and a sleep dart. And if you don't land it, you're as good as dead. As Mayhem gonna actually swap Merit onto the Cassidy. Sona gets tagged, but someone is the one coming under fire at the moment. Titans still not able to find that dive opportunity, though, with the cast pressuring the Echo so that no one pulls up on Punk.
Punk lands out of the back line with that Doomfist ultimate, backs up out of there. They're still all alive. However, this point is still in the favor of Florida Mayhem, and that magnetic grenade connects onto Punk, and Merritt does not miss. One of the best Cassidy players in the league opens that fight up for the Florida Mayhem on that disengage to continue the pursuit of winning this match.
Yeah, that lack of extra 25 health does not matter if you can keep pressuring these members of Titans. So even though Punk is able to make his way into the backline with the Meteor Strike, Sugar Free is too low in health to actually be able to follow up, and the Doom doesn't find the kill he's looking for. Titans now having to walk on to this point. Mayhem can literally just bait them in so that they walk straight into this blizzard that Sona is building.
Now they're going back with that beat drop early, opting not to use the Kitsune Rush because they can just rush down Crimzo again. The amount of times that Crimzo and Faith have been the target of the Florida Mayhem's pushes, feels like every single time Punk comes through to trying to recontest that point, but at the same time, Mayhem's already going to back up out of there, get delayed Punk, and Mayhem, they could stop Vancouver Titans right here and right now if they pick off Sugar Free.
Yeah, I mean, this is the really worrying thing for Titans at the moment. They're dying, staggered, lit, Sugar Free, who isn't able to get into that duplicate to actually be able to refresh that health and potentially save themselves from the stall. We're heading into final fight territory. Titans are having to sacrifice another 30 seconds, and they're walking into a Blizzard, a Deadeye, and a Kitsune Rush, all of which they're not going to be able to disengage, and they don't have the sound barrier to sustain it either. They need a pick, they need it now, and it's going to come in the form of Sugar Free taking Merit down.
A nice dive from Punk. Nobody touches! The nail! Punk was the one that was supposed to touch. That was the fastest. Didn't touch the point C9 that I've seen in quite some time, honestly, Moxie. That was insane. I mean, I had to take my glasses off for that because I was losing my damn mind that Punk didn't touch the point. I mean, that May ultimate was absolutely crucial to just stop Punk from touching that point. And this is what we talk about with Overwatch 2 being 5 versus 5, Moxie. Really, we see so many teams not able to touch that point in time.
Well, this is even more important as well for Mayhem because they didn't have to actually use that Blizzard. Ever. That was the thing. Because they won that first fight, right? You immediately just get control of those chokes and channels. And when you're continuing to pressure Punk in so he's not getting that space for Sugarfree and Aspire to work with, your backline is always vulnerable. And you also have that paranoia in the back of your head where you're like, I know they're around a corner, but I don't know which one. Because it's really interesting, right? Lee Chang, I'm sure you've experienced this, sort of being a professional player back in Overwatch 1. It used to be that everyone would hold around that initial first choke whenever you won the point. And now everyone retreats towards the side lane, but there's still that voice in the back of your head as a Lucio player that says, I need to amp through this choke. And as a result, they have to just pause and wait for those cooldowns to come back in. And even then, they just have absolutely no idea because they have so little map control of where Mayhem are playing from. And if they put a single foot wrong, it's the Maywall that's coming up to immediately isolate. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, it's down to Punk to try and find those intel, those little slivers of where a support could be out of position because they're not running either the Tracer or the Sombra. They don't have those channels into the backline. Instead, you just have to aggressively send a Doomfist in and hope he finds a connection.
And, you know, for the Florida Mayhem, they're already up 1-0 in this series. We'll see if the Vancouver Titans can come back on Hollywood. So we'll be right back after a short break for Hollywood.
man is down, but there's no more lifeline. L&L, and yet it might not matter. Sugar Frizzle super early anti-air play. Run.
And Sugar Free, what a phenomenal player. And I mean, from that little highlight video, I'm excited to see him again. We're back for the series, and we have a bit of a change up. In fact, Checkmate will be coming in for Sana. Moxie, that's quite the swap, especially since on Hollywood, maybe we'll see a bit more Tracer.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting to see come through. Again, like we talk about, Sona is a very, very good Tracer player in his own right. But the way that Florida Mayhem have been fielding this dive composition, they've liked to pair Merit and Checkmate together, and you need that synergy, right, of the Tracer and the Sombra alongside someone to be able to pincer those targets immediately, because Vancouver Titans, they're going to know what's up. They're going to know that they're potentially going to get dove upon, and they are going to do everything in their power to make sure that their backline stays alive, because they saw what happened, right? In that map number 1, if Crimzo goes down too early, it's essentially just fight done.
Yeah, you're right. Crimzo just dove on every time, and I don't know if it may be his first match nerves, like that's always a potential thing, but you know, Florida Mayhem are always going to capitalize on that, right? They're just such an experienced team at this point. I mean, the Des pointed it out. There were rookies, a lot of them rookies last year, but now coming in this year, they look like a phenomenal unit.
Yeah, I mean, Mayhem at the moment look like they're actually going to be opting for a little bit of counter dive. They've got Merritt coming in on the Ash, who's going to be able to have the coach gun. Churong on that Brigitte is going to be able to flail connect as well. So if Titans decide to try and just push onto Cafe with Punk on a Winston, that flail's immediately going to connect and just bop him back, and then you're going to be stuck. Very, very vulnerable to the dynamite that comes through from Merritt, because we have no Kiriko in the mix for Titans either. So those dynamites, if they do land, they're going to hurt.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, Punk's just going to take a lot of damage, surely. But at the same time, you know, it's going to build that nano boost, so it's that trade-off you're willing to take. I'm sure Crimzo wants to build that nano boost, but at the same time, Florida Mayhem, with these neutral fights, ready to dive at all times. Punk already jumps over the generator, so that's one step of their progression to move forward onto a solid dive. Punk just trying to take that cover, jumps into the cafe, but gets booped back immediately by a flail wall. Aspire just trying to take advantage of that space created, look for something in the back line, but now that space is negated by someone who drops onto him with that Winston bubble, and Punk attempted to do something in the front line, but his supports were cut off, so he gets wiped out, and Vancouver Titans, they're going to have to wait for Punk to come back.
Yeah, Aspire's going for just bubble break on this hands as well, trying to find the instant one tap onto Mayhem. But Merit has the displacement, and like we've seen every single time Titans have tried to dive that cafe, they're being displaced either by Coach Gun or Churong with that flail, and it's just not allowing Titans the space to be able to really challenge the high ground. As again,
every
Punk
time
moves forward, and it's literally just like a yo-yo moment. He's immediately dragged back.
I mean, that's just why Korong, one of the best Brigitte players we have. At the same time, someone goes incredibly low, but nobody's there with the follow-up onto Punk, who got him incredibly low. Sugar Free was just looking for that back line. At the same time, has built up that pulse bomb off of the Winston of someone and first one to build ultimate. However, now Rupel pops that nano. At the same time, Sugar Free connects onto Merit. Checkmate goes down to Aspire on the Hanzo, and Florida Mayhem try to trade it back aggressively with their Ana, Brig, and Winston, which, by the way, someone is committed to Primal Rage just to sustain this fight. And also, Korong popping the rally at the same time in this choke point. They force them all the way back as Aspire drops in a Dragon Strike and actually enables them to pick off Korong, who was using the rally. At the same time, Aspire connects onto Rupel, and Florida Mayhem, you know, a team that really is never out of it as they try to use a lot of ultimates to win pretty much a lost team fight.
Yeah, but Titans, however, had to invest both the Primal and the Dragon Strike, so they're not going to have it to try and break onto this high ground when Florida Mayhem set Merit up to be able to build onto the Bob. This honestly pays dividends for Mayhem to be able to hold even longer on B, because Titans have to do the exact same thing now. They have to either build up to that nano boost for Crimzo to put onto Punk, or Aspire finds a headshot onto Florida Mayhem as they're all set up on Catwalk.
Aspire waiting, looking for those shots, playing at the back of the map, goes for the grapple. Does he connect? No, because like we said again, the Brigitte of Florida Mayhem doing a great job keeping Rupel alive. And now, you know, Vancouver Titans still waiting for the dive. However, they're still getting card progression. It's Florida Mayhem surely that are going to be the ones to make the first move because of how hesitant the Vancouver Titans have been. Always just playing it slow, waiting for the right opportunity. At the same time, the anti-grenade did come through, so that's a cooldown out of Crimzo, waiting for that to come back online while someone did jump back to the high ground to get a little bit of those healing while Spire looks for that headshot but could not. Unfortunately, panic 2-shot there on the second one, but at the same time, no deaths for them. Getting it halfway into the street space is quite good for the Vancouver Titans. At the same time, Rupel drops that integrated into that backline. It's zoned out for the Vancouver Titans. They waited out at the same time. Crimzo does have that nano boost for this fight, still holding on to it as the payload is stopped. There's the nano boost from Crimzo onto Punk, but he's slept. At the same time, the cooldown did get changed of Sleep Dart, so Punk does wake up and is still doing a lot of damage to Rupel. And Sugar Free, from the top rope, commits the pulse bomb onto Rupel, and then the chase down on the rest of the Florida Mayhem happens as the Titans are surely going to win this fight.
Yeah, Punk now moving back onto that high ground. Merit does take Sugar Free down. The anti landing onto the Ash before they're able to cleanly disengage. So Titans should be able to keep this payload moving. As Rupel going down without anyone really in his line of sight, isn't able to find a nano boost onto someone to potentially try and salvage it for Mayhem so that Merit could build towards that bomb and throw it into the fight. But Titans still actually finding stuff. We're trying to. Hello, here we go. There's the nano boost. Rupel takes the elevator up onto the high ground to be able to get an elevation onto the line of sight of his Winston. Someone gets the nano boost, and suddenly Titans, after having won a fight and not being able to actually find a stagger onto someone, are off the high ground and they have to do it all over again.
This is exactly what we talked about, Moxie. I mean, it just seems like these fights never end. It's just Florida Mayhem wants to make this scrappy onto the Vancouver Titans, just always looking for something, forcing the primal rage jump. Merritt commits the bomb towards that payload, but at the same time, all of the Vancouver Titans are here to peel. However, Merritt had that same healing that the other team had, so the Vancouver Titans not able to find Merritt, who just got the best pocket in the war from Korong and Rupel.
I mean, remember as well, for the entirety of those rallies, Merritt's Bob is firing on all cylinders. So Florida Mayhem actually do a really smart thing. They bait Titans into taking the Bob fire. They take the fight off of the high ground towards low ground, towards that mega health pack, to bait Titans into walking right into that damage, knowing that the rally armor has already been invested. As Mayhem now, again, just trying to make it scrappy, trying to just cost Titans time to be able to build up and challenge the high ground so that Merritt can potentially find a kill to finish off this fight before it even begins, as Sugar Free invests those blinks to be able to make it towards that backline and look to just put that pressure on the payload to force Mayhem to drop down.
Yeah, just this payload has not moved the entire time. It seems like Florida Mayhem has decided under this bridge is where the cart will be for the rest of the map, because they're just continually pressuring in. However, now that cart does get past the underside of that bridge, and at the same time, they're just continually holding this high ground. That's why we talk about Hollywood in this high ground being so incredibly important. Sugar Free can't even use the elevator to get good position because he's forced out immediately, but Punk now, as Sugar Free dropped down, came back through with the nano boost onto Rupel, was able to find that kill even through Chorong, who was there with the rally ready to go, opted to hold onto it for potentially their fight, but checkmate again from the high ground, gets onto Crimzo. There's no pressure onto him while Chorong again boops down Punk from that high ground. Aspire does trade back checkmate, but he does lose faith in that back line. And same time, 20 seconds left, nobody on that payload. Someone drops down into the inside angle to connect onto Punk with the rest of his team, and now 13 seconds left. Vancouver Titans, they're in a rough spot.
Aspire's just gonna have to throw Dragon Strike in to try and push Mayhem off of this high ground. They have no time to be able to actively challenge it. They have to continue to challenge this payload. It's gonna be down to Sugar Free to get the tap, but immediately the dynamite comes through onto Merit, and Sugar Free's supposed to recall out early as Faith is hounded down by someone who's catching onto both of the supports who got separated from the front line. Oh no, Punk throws in the primal, but he's immediately slapped in. Florida Mayhem, this is where they're going to stop that payload. An absolute exemplary hold on B.
This team is insane. I mean, maybe Danny was right. Maybe Danny said that, you know, someone being MVP is not a hot take. That might be one of the storylines of this year. You know, we talk about insane Winston players, Fearless, Ushue, you know, he's up there. One of the best in the entire game, Moxie. Florida Mayhem, you know, and also another thing, Vancouver Titans, they're a solid team, but the Florida Mayhem truly just kind of looking like they're a step ahead of them at every situation.
Well, again, it was that domino effect, right? We talked about it when Titans took the point. Mayhem continued to make every single fight, even if Titans came out on top, scrappy. So it exhausted their resources that they had to play with into the next fight. So that Titans just had to build up to a nano boost to try and challenge the high ground, but Mayhem is still holding on to the Bob to be able to peel it all away from. And every single time Titans move one step forward, taking down someone like Rupel or Merit or Checkmate before the fight begins, someone comes in with a primal and stalls the fight out long enough for Mayhem's regroups to come through, and they get to take the high ground because Titans are so busy scrapping down the members of Mayhem on the low ground that they haven't been able to set up shop and actually catch out the respawning members of Mayhem as they walk through their building.
This is just a sign of a great team, right, Moxie? I mean, it's just they're able to do so much mechanically on an individual level. For the Vancouver Titans, it feels like at times it's difficult to even match that.
Well, again, like, how do you take away that high ground? The answer, unfortunately, came in the form of having a nano boost for Punk, but that's only going to come up every so often. And Mayhem, because they have that poke vantage point from the high ground, are always going to be ahead in terms of ultimate economy. Now, however, Titans are the ones who get that vantage point, so it really is going to be crucial that they make use of them.
Yeah, that's going to be very important for Vancouver Titans on the first point. We can see if Faith does as good of a job as Chorong was on the Brigitte. To be able to boop down someone from the high ground should be Faith's #1 goal. At the same time, someone doesn't want to actually take that generator side, just waiting for his team to be in position to go for the dive, waiting for Merritt to take over the top side. Now they actually go for that dive, and Aspire caught out, could not hide behind Faith's Brigitte shield, and now that's already one pick just off of Merritt with that perfectly timed engage, going on top, getting that climb, the same time as that Winston jump allowed them to get that first opening pick, and now they're in a situation where Punk jumps back to the cafe, has no support because they were pressured back into the next point, and that was clinical from the Florida Mayhem.
Yeah, sometimes you just come in with that Hanzo one-tap potential. That was literally why Titans were running it. When they were trying to push onto that point, right? They were hoping Aspire would be able to pull off what Merritt just did because it opened up that point immediately. Suddenly, you don't have to worry about knocking a Winston back when he goes for that cafe. You just have to immediately try and scramble, put control of that high ground for Titan's side so that they don't lose so much distance on this payload as Mayhem just push through that choke and continue warring away the sidelines. Punk takes a little bit of pressure, will at least be able to regroup with the rest of his team on high ground, but unfortunately, Mayhem already going to be coming in with the nano boost to be able to challenge Titans for that space. Yeah,
that's going to be very scary for the Vancouver Titans in this situation. As Checkmate also frothing at the mouth to get this pulse bomb off, but at the same time, you know, he's just dueling Sugar Free on that low ground. Maybe going to take that elevator in just a second, but no, he already notices Punk still waiting down here below. Maybe he opts to try to sticky this Winston who is stuck down on this payload. Now that the jump is used by Punk because of the anti-grenade, goes down up top and is forced to use cooldowns as well. So now he's jumping twice out of there. Already used Winston bubble. Now Checkmate knows he can come back in with the pulse bomb into that back flank, and it connects perfectly onto Crimzo, who had that nano, and now someone with his own nano boost connects onto the Brigitte of the backline. And if you notice, Florida Mayhem's not even pushing the cart until just now because they know they're at just such a mechanical and team edge at the moment.
Someone is literally just distraction in that fight as well. He goes for the jump, he baits out things like the break foil so that Checkmate can go forward with the pulse bomb, knowing he's not going to be pushed away from his target of Crimzo. Can anyone from Titans touch? As Checkmate is just going to push that payload. Punk is able to jump onto the payload, at least drops the level very early on. Will have the primal, has to use it to try and displace Mayhem off of this second floor ledge so that Titans with the rally can look to regroup as a good sleep does come through into someone, but Chorong decides to keep this fight going. Mayhem again making it scrappy, knowing that they're going to be able to collapse onto these secluded members of Titans. Sugar Free goes down, Punk has to get the nano from Crimzo. You're not going to have it in the next fight. Mayhem has so much time in the bank, and Titans don't have a single ultimate for the fight after.
They don't, and they have to just keep... They're eventually going to win this fight, but like you mentioned, Moxie, I mean, what do? No ultimates in the next fight. You know, Florida Mayhem have that pulse and another nano ready to go.
This is... It hinges on Aspire or Sugar Free. One of these two have to come in with a kill to delay Mayhem into this next engagement. If Checkmate is able to make his way onto that high ground again and find a stick onto Crimzo again, this map is done.
He very well could. I mean, but he wants to go towards that old spawn room with the green room over here on this right side. Just looking for Sugar Free, doing a great job as a Tracer player, taking those duels. It's kind of his job. He's at the same time waiting for that dive with someone. Now goes to the elevator. Someone goes for that dive, goes up. Now Faith low into that bubble. I mean, they're kind of caught out here. Crimzo gets to sleep, but both him and Faith both fall as Punk did trade back Rupal. Aspire falls, though. And in this situation, you just got Sugar Free and Punk alive. I mean, there's not much else you could do. Punk falls to Checkmate. Sugar Free comes to do something on this payload, but is forced to recall, and Checkmate, in fact, tries to get the pulse bomb to get a cheeky little pulse bomb after recall play, but 2-0 for Florida Mayhem, and they're looking dominant at the moment, Moxie.
I mean, there's a reason that this was the team that won the Pro-Am, right? They are looking absolutely unstoppable in this engagement. Such good reads coming through, such good understanding as well of the time bank that they had, the standing in the ultimate economy, the balance that was played between the two of them, knowing that if they just continue to pick apart slowly at Titans and force those ultimates out, things like the nano boost and the primal, all of which can be used to stall. Because remember, as the defenders, with the pillar being so close to that checkpoint for B, you get the faster respawns. So if you have a nano boost, you're going to be able to regroup in full and you can try and surge back on the members of Florida, but that just doesn't happen because they're already burnt out of them in the fight prior.
I mean, great teamwork, like you said. It's just so clean from the Florida Mayhem, where they can also just do things, like you said, just constantly go for those stagger kills, Moxie. It's just time after time again, you're going to see someone or checkmate just go for more than other teams would, and even avoid fight-changing ultimates like that Dragon Strike or, you know, a pull spawn from Sugarfruit.
Yeah, and because as well, remember how they were able to take point A so quickly? They had all of the time in the world to be able to go through those rotations where they're not actively just running it down mid, waiting for a nano boost, taking that face tank damage so that someone gets to just take the damage in a live ripple to supercharge up into that nano boost. Instead, they've got a good 3 minutes to play around with. They know if a Sparrow Sugarfree picks one of them off before a fight begins, they're going to have to look for the reset, they're going to have to wait 30 seconds, but they take the rotations, they make sure that they are out of line of sight, out of target focus as well. Something that unfortunately Titans, with how long it took to pick up point A, weren't privy to.
And well, we'll see if they'll be maybe more a little privy to Havana. That'll be the next map after a quick break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, and obviously the same lineup's going to be out for both teams, no changes. And in fact, you know, somebody I wanted to mention real fast was Merit behind the scenes, right? And a lot of these watch parties going on around the scene. We've heard from somebody that was at these watch parties that was actually the GM of the Florida Mayhem talking about how they got Merit for basically free, and the fact that he's been as good as he has been, only had to give up Happy for Merit, and he'll take that trade any day of the week for the Florida Mayhem. They look amazing with him. And Moxie, you mentioned Merit on the Widowmaker in Havana is always a sight to behold.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this because this is a strategy that Florida Mayhem brought out for Pro-Am, where they did run Merit on certain maps where they would have him either on Ilias Ruins or indeed Havana, where we're headed to now, run out on the Widowmaker. And given that Florida Mayhem are going to be on the defense first and foremost, I think we're going to get to see it in the next couple of seconds.
Right. Well, yeah, probably. I mean, why not? Like, what else would you play? The Hanzo, maybe?
Well, the Hanzo can work because you have like that survivability, right? If you get jumped on by Vancouver Titans, especially if they're going to be running something like this Genji, then you're going to be able to move a lot faster as opposed to the Widowmaker, who has significantly less health at 175, and also that grapple cooldown. It's an absolute killer. 12 seconds. If Mayhem aren't able to peel the Merit, they are going to lose him, which is why we're going to be seeing players like Chorong playing very, very close to him, Rupel as well on that Baptiste, not just to make sure that someone is able to survive when he gets pressured and he loses things like that shield and has already exhausted that grasp, but also to make sure if a full dive does come out onto his backline, Merit's still going to be able to line these shots up and continue to pressure, because it's not just going to be pressuring Aspire, it's also going to be leaning into Titan's backline. There's so much pressure on Crimzo and Faith not to peak Merit when Punk Shield is down that it's going to significantly limit Titan's push power, especially around this first corner.
They're going to have to just take their time here. Aspire surely going to just be looking in every angle for this Widowmaker the entire time, just opting to go for that duel. But we do see Sugar Free on Genji, you know, renowned Genji player. In fact, when I played with him, he was a Genji prodigy at the time, and we'll see if he can still live up to that name, while Checkmate is on the Sombra on the opposite side. You know, we've seen a lot of fantastic Sombra play so far in Overwatch League, and Aspire just looks for this Sombra, who then goes back invisible up to the hack. At the same time, Vancouver Titans going for a very aggressive push, drop that immortality field from Crimzo. So does Rupel. However, Rupel's was a second later, so this enables them to keep pushing forward until Aspire connects on the head of Rupel, doing as good of a job as he could of avoiding those shots, but the peel is there for Sugar Free on a Sombra. Checkmate dove onto Aspire. Meanwhile, you know, it seems like Merit's in a rough position, has to get some support from someone to back out of there without having to deal with Aspire. And every time it seems like Checkmate is on Aspire, he always gets these heals from the Brigitte pack last second, and Pug chases down Merit. This cart is still continuing on forward. It's gonna be a tough recontest now for the Florida Mayhem.
Yeah, Mayhem wanted to keep Merit out of easy reach from Sugar Free, who could just Genji dash up there and pressure the Widowmaker off. So they played Merit a little bit closer to their chest, and as a result, they gave up that ledge opening up onto that street space, so that if Titans were able to get through that corner, the Spire immediately gets access to it, as it's going to be Crimzo coming in with an Amp Matrix. No recontest for Mayhem. They are not allowed to build up into that Sigma Flux and pressure Crimzo into using the Immortality Field early. Silver lining for Mayhem, it's a fast fight, and they'll at least be able to carry those ultimates into this next one to be able to pair it up with Checkmate's EMP to make sure that Crimzo isn't able to use Immortality Field, but they may just save the EMP to make sure that Sugar Free's blade doesn't find any form of value.
Yeah, 5 ultimates now for the Florida Mayhem, and Sugar Free also off that amplification matrix from Crimzo was able to get 2 kills. And you know, one of the old strategies of the Atlanta Academy team was just Sugar Free, go kill on Genji. That seems to be the play all of the time, but the EMP comes out from Checkmate. The rally, though, does save his team at the same time. Sugar Free gets Checkmate, who is there with the EMP, and Rupel trades it back onto Crimzo with that Amp Matrix, and Chorong there. That backline for the Florida Mayhem truly standing out in Pro-Am and now.
Oh, Brigitte 2.0 is absolutely terrifying when you didn't have a Lucio to be able to disengage it, right? Especially if you're Titans and you're all fighting super clustered up and very very accessible for that Brigida to be able to move forward with that extra little speed that you get from the rally activation as well. Connecting onto so many members of Titans too, so that even though Checkmate has already used the EMP and you've lost Rupel, Sugarfree doesn't get the opportunity to play it because his team is just staggered and he loses both supports. They'll have it for this next fight though, and there is no contingency in having to catch Checkmate out before the blade comes through. You are free to come in with that blade whenever you so choose, and Mayhem are positioning accordingly.
I see Sugarfree over the backside. There's Punk with that gravitic flux to maybe force that immortality field, but Rupel intelligently holds on to it for the last second. Sugarfree uses the blade, but into that immortality field, he cannot find the kill. In fact, Merit takes his head off with that support of Chorong and Rupel in the back line. So that was expertly played by the Florida Mayhem, only taking someone down with that gravitic flux. Vancouver Titans, they're not out of it. They only launched Sugarfree. It's 4 versus 4, but, Florida Mayhems do have these spawns at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be down to Punk to try and challenge how Mayhem are able to regroup. That's Sigma getting so much damage with the spears on the regrouping members of Mayhem, but already going to be pushed off of that spot. Going to have to just fall back and wait for the hack to come off from Crimso so you can use the amplification matrix to keep Mayhem at arm's length, but that's exactly where Merit wants to play. The second this Sigma shield goes down, that Widow is going to swing right into action.
Amplification matrix from the top of Crimso. Sugarfree went a bit too deep, but it's with Punk and his frontline Aspire was also there. There's the gravitic flux, and it connects immediately, satisfying kills onto both Punk and Faith. Another reset for the Vancouver Titans.
And here's the question for Titans. How do you get back into this engagement? Because you don't have a blade to stop Mayhem from just aggressively holding and looking for that first pick, especially because they've got Checkmate just playing information gathering at the moment on the Sombra to try and figure out where Titans are going to be rotating to be able to call it over to Merit. So Merit's in position so that wherever Titans do end up, at the end of the day, it's time to a Widowmaker scope that they go into.
No one can.
Yeah, there's the shot from Merit onto the head of Punk, but because he's a tank, he lives with a ton of HP. At the same time, wall hacks now here for Merit, so Spire's aware he can't peek his head too far. Dragon Strike committed. It connects onto, the low ground that's disengaged by the Florida Mayhem, and there's the EMP re-engage from them. Someone connects onto Sugarfree. Rupel finds Punk as well, and now they're just looking for stagger kills as the Vancouver Titans try to reset.
It's such a mean cross angle as well for Titans to have to face. Like, Merit is literally playing above their heads, but if they try and turn their attention to focus on the Widowmaker, they open themselves wide open to someone on that Sigma who just gets to pressure so many of them as they look for that disengagement. Faith will have the rally, but Mayhem may just be able to strip that armor off them. Not with an EMP, but just with the amount of poke pressure that they take before they see that payload. I would much rather see Titans hold on to the rally and use it to set Sugarfree up, because we've seen him come in with the blade, but every single time he's been stopped.
He could build it in this fight, so maybe they want to use it now, and that's what Faith's going to do. They push on forward because Florida Mayhem has no ultimates. In comes that Baptiste out of Immortality Field, but in fact the hack comes through onto Punk, so he could not capitalize with that Gravitic Flux. It gets canceled though. Crimso finds someone, so even though the Gravitic Flux did not connect, they do end up with that first pick, and Aspire finds Checkmate too. They're trying to maybe reset quickly for this recontest of Florida Mayhem.
Yeah, Mayhem have to be careful though if they try and take this recontest through these really small corridors. Sugarfree has the blade. They do not have the rally. They are not going to be stunning the Genji. They're not going to be able to stagger him. So that blade will just pop from every single one of them, from one to the next, until you find a full team kill. And Sugarfree, he's going for the shurikens. He's trying to chunk that Sigma health down so he can find the kill as quickly as possible and use the dash reset to move on to the back line. Who's left behind away from their Sigma? Sugarfree plays it perfectly, and Vancouver Titans finally see themselves moving into C. But this is the concern, Dustin. It took them so long to break apart B. Do they have enough time to be able to fully push through C? Because now that we move into this specific area and you get Castle to play with and that high ground, Merit immediately swaps back onto that Widowmaker.
Yeah, it's gonna, like you mentioned, it should be overtime for them. I mean, at the same time, Vancouver Titans could still do this. It's not over yet, and especially overtime in a payload map or an escort map specifically, it's super easy to be okay with that. At the same time, Dragon ultimate committed by Aspire while the Gravitic Flux is there onto Punk, so they find him. And Sugarfree, though, at the same time, finds Choron, gets Rupel. Aspire finds Checkmate. It's the DPS players of the Vancouver Titans that are absolutely popping off at the current moment.
Yeah, really good pressure as well coming through from all of these members of Titans to make sure that Merit is just off of that angle so he's not able to take a squishy down and force Titans to just hold and wait for even more resets. So Sugar Free continues to make sure that the ledge is not available for the Widow, and Merit as a result has had to reposition. Aspire almost goes down, will be able to stay standing, but Checkmate is going to be setting up for the CMP, especially with the Infrasight intel coming through from Merit, and all of Titans are on the run. This is just a shooting gallery for the Widow.
Yeah, he's just looking for those angles, but at the same time, there's a Brigitte ultimate that's kind of stopping those picks from coming through. The amplification matrix from Crimzo might be ill-advised because they're down already 2 members. He falls to someone. Aspire does trade back. Well, I guess it's overtime, so it makes sense why he did use it, but Merit with those with the 2K at the very end, overtime will eventually fall, but Vancouver Titans, they've made it almost all the way through third phase. However, Florida Mayhem stop them here.
Yeah, they did, however, like you said, make it pretty far. And given how hard they find pushing through B, especially at the beginning of just making it past Merit, when you had Chorong playing interception, whenever Titans wanted to move forward and push onto that Widowmaker, Chorong would step up to the plate and just 1v1 wrestle whoever tried to throw the hat into the ring. And as a result, they would be so caught up dueling that Brigitte that Merit would have all of the time in the world to just unnoticed line up that shot, find the head, and push Titans back for even more time.
Vancouver Titans, Moxie, you know, they although getting stopped in the third phase, we all know Rialto is a map where, you know, it still is incredibly favored for the Vancouver Titans as we, you know, look back at a Sugar-Free 2K. Obviously, it's cathartic for me to watch his Genji plays simply because, you know, I play with the kid and, you know, now he's of age in the Overwatch League. Was pretty much, he was 14 years old when I played with him, Moxie. I played with a child when I was like 19 years old in Overwatch, okay? In Overwatch, I played with Sugar-Free. Just a phenomenal player overall, one of the best we have in the league.
It's really good to see as well, because I know there was a lot of doubters coming into this season, at least until we came into like Pro-Am. People were like, oh, it's been a really long time. Is he still going to be up to that insane level? And then his first game in Pro-Am, everyone was like, okay, yeah, no. he's still got it. In fact, he's grown and become even more talented, even more absolutely terrifying to face up against. And Titans are going to have to find that monstrosity to keep Mayhem at bay. It needs magic right now for Merit not to be able to find these opening picks and force Titans even further back. As this is aggression from Mayhem, openly challenging this space. Titans at least not giving up that first corner as easily as we saw Mayhem just play a little bit further back, trying to bait them into Merit on that side lane. That's playing a little bit more out in the open is immediately going to get punished. He's hacked before he can grapple onto the ledge, and that opens up this fight massively.
And that was a difference in ideology there, I'm assuming, from Aspire, maybe thinking that he had to have some more time, but at the same time, Titans, they're okay with that because they've come through, connected onto Merit, also Rupo and Chorong, and if you can shut out that Widowmaker's space, you'll take that trade any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it doesn't really matter if you're lacking a Widowmaker if you make sure that Merit doesn't get opportunity to be able to take advantage of a lack of contests coming through. Aspire now is actually going to go straight onto the Hanzo, so they're going to be able to use these Sonics to be able to make sure that they know what Checkmate is routing to.
I like that swap
from... He's already past them.
Oh my god, yeah, he is. He's just waiting for that hack over the backside, looks for that hack onto Sugar-Free, and this time he finds it, understanding the catalyst the Vancouver Titans pushes has always been him, and, you know, off of that one hack from Checkmate, they continue on forward, and, you know, as they're on the attacking side, the Sombra seems to be doing even more than Checkmate was doing on the defense.
Really interesting, actually, that you talk about it, because, yeah, you don't often see something like a Genji paired up with a Sigma, because normally he's paired up with something like a Winston or a Wrecking Ball, because it's the Winston, the Wrecking Ball, who creates that space, chunks the target down, and then the Genji comes through for the actual kill so that you can get a dash reset and immediately book yourself a free escape out of these fights. And Sugar-Free not getting those dash resets leaves them vulnerable.
We can test now. Sugar-Free is going to come through, being aware that he might be caught out at the same time. Riddick Flux onto Punk on that front line. The Immortality field is there. Can anybody touch? In fact, the hack came through as well as he was falling, but Punk's still going to build up to that Riddick Flux. Let's see if he opts to use it in this situation, waiting for that rock to come out. There's that stun. Now we can go for the Riddick Flux, but the EMP is here, so there's too many things that potentially could shut him out. However, at the same time, Faith with that rally connects in time. However, Merit with the shot from the back of the map does find him, though Sugar-Free with the blade gets peeled back by Checkmate, who is doing a phenomenal job in the Florida Mayhem cap out first point.
Titans are going to have to rely on a Dragon Strike isolating these members of Mayhem. The problem is now Checkmate has all of the time in the world to be able to pounce on an isolated member of Titans as they regroup. He's getting so much information and just passing it over to the rest of his team. Will reveal himself
annoying.
just to make sure that Titans have to turn around and deal with the Sombra so that Mayhem get to cement their hold on the high ground. It's going to go into a Dragon Strike though, as Titans have to throw it out early just to push Mayhem back.
I like what the Titans are doing, trying to create a proactive play when in, previous maps they might have been a little bit more hesitant. The Immortality Field from RuPaul was used to keep someone alive back through that doorway, and now Titans have to push on through, but they're continually, as a unit, just running down someone in RuPaul, and that's what you want to do for the Vancouver Titans to win against Florida Mayhem, who are so split on these off angles.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. You need to be proactive, right? We've seen Mayhem, if they start a fight, they're the ones that decide when it's ended. So Titans taking that initiative into their own hands, pushing Mayhem into being the ones disengaging, means that even if Mayhem are losing, they don't get the opportunity to turn it onto Titans and force ultimates from the defensive side so that they have to give up space in the next one. And as a result, Crimzo is going to have Amplification Matrix, and Mayhem are going to have to wait until RuPaul's online with theirs.
Vancouver Titans waiting for that engage. The rock comes through from someone. In comes that ultimate from Crimzo, but it connects onto actually both Faith and Crimzo. That's not exactly what you want, although the Immortality Field not exactly taken out just yet, so they do a good job peeling the Gravitic Flux from someone while they do have a little bit of that space. In comes that Amplification Matrix, but Sugar Free notices it, has to fall back towards that mini health pack, but on the front line, Chorong with the rally, with someone on that front line, just chase down both Aspire and Faith, and that's a reset already for the Vancouver Titans.
Yeah, but Mayhem had to layer both support ultimates, one over each other in this next fight, not just against the Sigma Flux, where RuPaul is essentially going to have to invest that Immortality Field. They're also going into a Dragon Strike, a rally, so sustainability for Titan side, but also the Blade. If you want to be able to shut this Blade down, it's either going to have to come off of the back of a Dragon Strike from Merit to make sure that Sugar Free doesn't find the entrance into the backline, or an EMP from Checkmate, and that is usually Titan's initiation.
Oh! No way, did Punk just... I think he just rocked the Sombra as she was invisible, or the hack did reveal that Sombra, but that blade's still available for Sugar Free, holding on to it, though, in this situation. In comes Dragon Strikes from both Hanzos. An EMP actually connects onto Sugar Free, Punk, and Crimzo in that backline, but Punk trades it back. Checkmate went for that EMP, but gets traded back immediately, and, Vancouver Titans, they're okay just taking this fight as it is, just taking the fight win and not using the blade.
Yeah, what was the follow-up from Mayhem? They invested both the Dragon Strike to sort of funnel the members of Titans into the EMP to guarantee that Sugar Free got caught in it, so no fall-through blade from Titans. The problem is, you've only delayed the problem. Titans, however, do lose the Genji and have to throw the Flux in now. This should be Immortality Field with a hack from Checkmate. RuPaul holds on to the Immortality, so they're going to have it when Sugar Free comes back in the fight.
I mean, Checkmate doing all that you could do on Sombra at the current moment, trying to maybe do a little bit too much at times, but the Amplification Matrix comes through. Punk's shield gets eviscerated. The Immortality Field was also used by Crimzo, which could be detrimental until Sugar Free is here with the blade. That's 2 for him, but gets shut down by Merit, though that 2K could be enough until Merit comes through from that top angle, but no, it is not enough for Merit in the Florida Mayhem. 30 seconds left now. Titans look changed on Havana.
Yeah, no one can displace Punk. Faith is going to be cycling into a rally, Aspire into a Dragon Strike, and Mayhem, they've got a rally to try and sustain into this next fight so Merit can build into that Dragon Strike, but what do they do afterwards? Titans have a Dragon Strike to be able to entail with their own, make sure that in overtime, Mayhem have to get off the payload.
Checkmate's pushing this payload. Aspire gets chunked down, but gets those heals. Actually, Crimzo forced to use his shift early on the regenerative. At the same time, Dragon Strike used on that high ground. The Immortality Field is not actually going to be used by RuPaul yet, but Sugar Free finds someone. Aspire also connects on the Checkmate. Now, RuPaul used the Immortality Field a bit too late. The rally is here also, a bit too late for Chorong. And, for Florida Mayhem, they're going to get stopped here by the Vancouver Titans, leading us into that map number 4.
Faith's rally finds more than Chorong's. He actually gets to stun Chorong mid-rally himself, and having that control, being able to push the payload that far into C, allowed Titans to be able to turn that series around. And honestly, it all comes off of the back of one player. Sugar Free's Genji performance, absolutely insane. We said it had to be monstrous. We said it had to be magical. It was all of the above. He looked insane.
He just is so good at the current moment. I mean, Sugar Free, like you said, didn't miss a beat coming into Overwatch 2, and you know, I won't sing the praises too much of him, because then it would look like homerism, because obviously, you know, I did play with him at a certain point, but he's a very, very talented player, proved it today, and has throughout. And to really take a map off of the Florida Mayhem in the Pro-Am, where they, I think, did they get 3-0'd in the Pro-Am? I'm trying to recollect my memory. My brain does not exactly work anymore, but for the Vancouver Titans to take a map over the reigning champions of the Pro-Am, that's gotta feel good.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for Florida Mayhem as well, it's probably gotta feel a little bit sour, right? Because Checkmate was absolutely insane on the Sombra as well. Like, getting the hack as well onto so many Sigma Fluxes coming through from Punk, and you see the trust from RuPaul. The map doesn't throw lamp until he sees that the hack has come through from his Sombra, and he's like, okay, cool, we can hold Immortality Field, we'll have it for Blade. They do throw it out for Blade. The problem is that Sugar Free just slices through it like it's absolute butter, and then moves on to slice through the rest of the team.
But next map, Moxie, we're going to Coliseum. You know, we'll see if the Vancouver Titans can actually make this reverse sweep happen in these spring stage qualifiers. But we will be going to a break. When we come back, we'll see you on that map number 4.
I'm telling you, Fight is an insane Brick player. Advantage down, but there's no more lifeline. L&L, and yet it might not matter. Sugar Crystal super early anti-air blade.
Welcome back, everybody. We are headed to that coveted map number 3 or 4, I should say. And what a great job by the Vancouver Titans on that previous map. And specifically, we have to call out one player in particular. It's obviously Sugar Free on that Genji. Just did so much work. Absolutely pumped that backline. Had 10,500 damage total, 24 elims in 10 deaths. This guy really is that X factor on this hero. Obviously has improved on the Tracer significantly from where he was previously when he wasn't in the Overwatch League, but also his Genji, really nothing to scoff at. Truly one of the best Genjis in the game, and there's a reason why every time this guy's on Genji, you have a chance to win the game.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a reason as well when we were in breakdown time, you were advocating for him to hopefully stick on Genji, even though the next map that we're going to is a Colosseo. And I don't know if we're going to see the Genji come through, but what I do know is that we're going to see Checkmate out and Solna come back in. So again, I feel like this is Florida Mayhem's answer to when Vancouver Titans want to get a little bit more brawl heavy. Given that Colosseo, things like this Zarya can work a lot better, because you do take those frontline fights, moving forward, trying to take that control of the robot as quickly as possible. Sometimes teams just win off of being able to take that first initial engagement and get that little bit extra distance at the very beginning, and they don't want to allow Titans to have the chance to be able to build into something like Graviton unmatched.
And for Sana in particular, Moxie, I mean, we know him specifically for a lot of that Sojourn. And, you know, Merit has also shown a lot of that Sojourn in his pool. Obviously, I mean, Sana's Tracer is obviously insane as well. But do you think that we could see any potentially, you know, slight role swaps for Sana or for Merit in this map?
I mean, there's a potential, like you said, that we could maybe see something like the Sojourn come through. Like you said, when Sona used to play for Young and Beautiful back in his Contenders days, he was under the mantle of that Sojourn player before sort of off-rolling over to something like the Tracer, which is what he's sort of more commonly known for. And I know a lot of people, when he was picked up by Mayhem, expected him to be the go-to Tracer player coming through, but he also is incredibly flexible in terms of his hero pools. And if you know him, back in his Contender days, before he was picked up for Young and Beautiful last year, he had a terrifying Reaper to be able to go up against some of these teams in these brawl-heavy compositions, and that's exactly what we're going to see come through. Both of these teams looking to take it up close, looking to brawl for as quick as possible, and it's going to be down to these Sojourns to find the opening picks onto something squishy like a Baptiste in the back line to immediately allow one team an elevated advantage.
And we're on Colosseo for map number 3, the map known for these incredibly long first fights that usually take the better part of about a minute. We'll see if both sides can actually find those picks, like you said, on that Sojourn, but with a bunch of these characters in the lobby being incredibly hard to hit while they move back and forth with those, you know, heads kind of bobbing and weaving. The Vancouver Titans, however, just trying to build some charge, and same with someone on this Zarya, as Sana actually just wants the Vancouver Titans to push this cart first. He wants to drop down with that Zarya bubble, pressure out that back line, afford Merit that space potentially. Is everybody still healthy in this fight? The Vancouver Titans have done a good job disengaging and now re-engaging. Yo-yoed back with Punk getting someone. Merit only has that mini to peel, but Crimzo and Sugar Free are there on Reaper to find that kill and actually win this first fight.
Yeah, the rubber band from Titans is gorgeous. And remember, when we started this series in Night Market, it was Mayhem getting that forward positioning for Sona to aggressively chunk down these members of Titans who had to step forward. So Titans are expecting the Reaper to be in that post-aggressive position, and they make sure it's Punk with the bubble who moves past him to pressure out Mayhem's backline. So Sona is forced to use the Ray form and retreat, opening that space up for Titans to move forward. Mayhem, however, going to have control of the high ground, going to have a really good elevated position for Merit to try and chunk one of these squishies down, as Titans have to play the poke phase.
Yeah, Punk already used that bubble onto Sugar Free, so they actually don't want to go for that dive just yet. Wait for that cooldown to come back online and use the amplification matrix from Crimzo, hitting some nice shots into someone. However, Punk on this side was chunked down, so he has to look back and heal up his Zarya. In the meantime, somewhat pressured by the entirety of the Vancouver Titans. The grab actually committed. It connects on to 3, but the beat drop should sustain them through this with that immortality field while Rupel trades back Punk. Nobody wanted to continue with that fight on the side of Vancouver Titans. They obviously split all the way around, but maybe that gives them the advantage. Now, actually, in this situation, the Florida Mayhem capitalize off of that grab play from Vancouver Titans and control that robot again.
I mean, next fight, they're going to be capitalizing off of that beat coming through from Faith as well. Faith used that beat knowing that Punk had invested the Graviton before Mayhem had one of their own, so that Titans could potentially find that fight win and keep Mayhem off of the high ground so that they were manageable as they came over from Bridge. But unfortunately, that has the domino effect this fight of not having sound barriers to be able to peel the effects of someone's Graviton, and Titans know it. They don't have the sustainability that Mayhem have online.
It's waiting for it, looking for it. Is that a 3-man, 4-man ultimate? Actually 3-man, but at the same time, Aspire with the overclock trades back 1. Merit with his own overclock gets Aspire and actually ends up with that 2K also onto Punk, make it a 3. Tries to chase down Crimzo and does so successfully. 4K off of an overclock from Merit.
It's costly, though, for Mayhem. It is only 1 overclock coming through from Titan side as opposed to a Graviton where you ideally want to win that fight, right? Crimzo has to use the Immortality Field incredibly early to be able to save all 3 of the members of Titans caught in the Graviton, so Mayhem shouldn't have to pull their punches. Unfortunately, now they don't have the overclock in this next fight. They don't really have the means of chunking Sugar Free down in the Death Blossom form. It's going to be about which Reaper gets the better position to be able to infiltrate into the backline. Solar is already angling for it, gets a very early bubble coming through from his Zarya to be able to keep that position. The Titans with the Ant Matrix just drop it on mid and force Mayhem back.
Mayhem now back on the inside. They've disengaged Crimson's ultimate successfully, but can they disengage Sugar Freeze? They do find Chorong. Punk also with the follow-up. Donna attempted to use a Death Blossom of his own, but it's not enough to stop Vancouver Titans, who, when they're brawling Moxie, they're on fire.
Yeah, and Sugar Free is the one, again, when we saw him on Genji, he was the one going forward, he was the one initiating things. He goes in with the Ray Form, he goes in with the Death Blossom, and he forces Mayhem to step backwards, the place you don't want to be on Colosseo because you're stepping into a line of sight of a setup Sojourn. The reason that we see teams literally spend 2 minutes not moving from the sidelines so they don't walk into that exact same position. Really good baiting coming through from Titans to force Mayhem to take that spot.
Vancouver Titans almost looked like they wanted to get another fight in a separate area and just give up this robot. And in this situation, they lose Punk because they're going aggressive on Rupel, trying to find that backline, but the beat drop is there to support him. However, for the side of Vancouver Titans, they just use that beat drop to force Rupel and Chorong support ultimates.
Yeah, someone's going to have a Graviton, but Punk is going to have one to answer it too. The difference for Mayhem is that Merit is a lot closer to the overclock than Aspire is. So for Titans, it's going to be about, do we take this Graviton to try and mirror into someone's, or do we wait with our poke phase until we're in a position to be able to elevate ourselves? So immediately get that Graviton, Immortality Field from Titans comes out, saving these members, but that just sets Merit up to come in with an overclock afterwards. Merit able to find Faith. Still finding these members of Titans who were trying to use the Ant Matrix to turn onto Mayhem, and that just means they're rooted in spot for the Sojourn to be able to take them down.
I mean, what a difference maker Merit has been. Finds those kills also with the Graviton from someone to set things up. Now they get that robot pushing forward, but they're still down about 30 meters, Moxie. You know, Aspire's got an overclock in this fight. This could end up being something that gives Vancouver Titans an edge. We'll see if Florida Mayhem opt to fight towards this robot. At the moment, they're on the high ground, in fact, a few of them, so they do have some positional advantage. They drop down below, just try to get this robot pushing a bit further, but it's being contested from that high ground. Meanwhile, Aspire now drops that ultimate, commits the overclock into the backline, but he's met with that ultimate from Rupel, the amplification matrix. The robot, though, stolen out from the nose, out from under the noses of the Florida Mayhem. The robot is running in the opposite direction, and Aspire finds Merit, his counterpart, while they do so. So that should give Vancouver Titans a healthy lead as they control that robot again.
Yeah, you need direct line of sight to be able to contest that bottom. Mayhem, because they're all hiding behind the Ant Matrix from the overclock, do not. So like you said, Titans just move in. It is quite literally free real estate, and will be able to continue pressuring Mayhem, who do have that high ground. Don't really have an ultimate to be able to play off of it just yet. They're coming in with a sound barrier. Titans not really having anything other than an Ant Matrix to be able to pressure it out early, but they should be able to hit into a sound barrier as well. So Mayhem do not want to use that sound barrier first, because Titans can throw this in second.
Sana now TPing into the backline, but surely the side of Vancouver Titans will hear the voice line from that Reaper. There it is into the backline. Bubbles committed already for Plunk, who is melting Sana, so that beat drop has to be used from both sides. Amplification Matrix here, and Aspire through that Ant Matrix connects onto Sana with the railgun shot. The Immortality field is also gone for Rupel, so the stagger kills here will be crucial for the Vancouver Titans. They continue on underneath. Punk is very, very low, so he's gonna need to get healed up by his backline, and he's doing so just well. The grab actually committed, but they're down. Rupel, is it enough? Yes, because Sana is here with the Death Blossom to follow up on those kills. But Titans, Moxie, they still have ults in the bank.
Yeah, but Titans have to set the Death Blossom up, and you saw how hard it is as a Reaper to infiltrate that backline without giving yourself away. That's why we're seeing it being paired up with the Zarya, so if you get spotted out early, you at least have the bubble and can keep holding the aggressive angles to set this Death Blossom up. Given that there's no Ana on the other side, you don't even have a Sleep Dart or an Anti to have to worry about burning out either. But Mayhem gonna be playing the distance fight, have the overclock, unfortunately don't have the lead of objectives, so Titans can just pick them up to choose, but Merit comes in with the overclock, denies the Ant Matrix, and Mayhem walk right through the rectangle and onto the members of Titans who were trying to use it to turn the fight around.
Can I just say, even though Titans lost that fight, I love how they're playing. You know, they're continually just getting aggressive no matter what situation happens. So Florida Mayhem, they're down. Look, all of their members here coming back from the spawn. So because of that, you know, Sana and someone are not able to take the advantage in terms of the meters, resulting in this fight either happening by their bridge.
Again, they've been able to just take control of the bot, and Mayhem, they don't have the overclock, they don't have the graviton, they don't have a Death Blossom, they don't even have the Ant Matrix. And they know that they're contesting an overclock on the other side, so they can't even really challenge the distance fight. If they step forward and try and challenge this objective, they walk into an overclock, which they have nothing to deal with.
Fire. With that overclock, able to just get so much done, like you mentioned, until Florida Mayhem disengage it. The Ant, oh my god, just hit your shots, Aspire, onto Sana, who came through that left side. But at the same time, you know, that's just one pick. They get that robot forward. Now, 1 minute and 13 seconds left. Florida Mayhem do have a beat drop to engage, but surely Faith is going to counter it. However, oh my god, almost got picked off by Merit. The health bar going incredibly low, and they actually get the robot almost to where their checkpoint was before, while Sugar Free just in the low ground trying to get some damage. Vancouver Titans, do they want this fight? They do. They pop the amplification matrix just to sustain this robot here, and Florida Mayhem are trying to find it, but want to wait out the Ant Matrix. The commit beats on both sides, so both Lucio's using that ultimate as Rupel building that Ant Matrix. Sana the one to find Sugar Free as the immortality field of Rupel runs out. Chorong chases down Punk as well, and they will reclaim this robot with 30 seconds left.
Mayhem going to have to win another fight. Maybe even 2 of Titans are going to be able to recontest fast enough in time, and that means for Mayhem they can't just chuck in all of the ultimates they have available. The good news for them is that they are going to be able to have a lot of ultimates. Overclock, Death Blossom, Graviton, and Ant Matrix. They should have everything they need to be able to cycle this momentum through. The problem is, if they lose a pick, if Titans are able to take the agency of the fight with Punk's Graviton, Mayhem have to throw the ultimates in because they cannot afford to go back to the respawn room. We're about to hit into overtime, and they're not in control of distance.
Here he is, Sana with the Death Blossom connects onto Crimzo. Punk falls to Merit, so that's 2. But they used what? They used Grav, Death Blossom, and Amp Matrix. But Moxie, I don't know if the Vancouver Titans will have time with overtime spawns to get a clean recontest.
And that's exactly what Mayhem are looking to put a stop to. It's going to be Sana holding up on that ledge, waiting for Titans to regroup. Crimzo going on to Tomorrow, knowing that he's going to be pressured. The second he tries to move for the recontest, has to use the Fade to be able to tap in. The Titans coming through with the ultimates might be able to find the means of keeping Mayhem at bay, but not if Mayhem have the bridge control. Someone is able to just lock them down. Merit with the overclock turns it on to Titans, and that is going to be Mayhem walking away with a match win. It was going to be such a hard-fought battle for Titans. The amount of ultimates that they were up against, the fact that they were respawning straight into the members of Mayhem who could literally just play Gatekeeper. That was a really, really tough challenge ahead of them. And for a second, they almost had it. But having to invest things like the Moira Fade just to break through that initial first choke, you have no means of sustaining and stalling on the point for a regroup to come through from your team.
No, they just don't. And, you know, I always love someone's reactions in the camera, just always so happy to win a game of Overwatch. That's how you can tell. But player just loves the game. And, you know, for the side of Florida Mayhem Moxie. I mean, they made it. It was a little close. Vancouver Titans did actually manage to kind of come back at points on the previous map, but overall, Florida Mayhem just took control of everything at the end.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, Titans had a really good read very early on. They saw the game plan coming through from Mayhem, given the fact that Mayhem had literally used the same script on Lijiang Night Market, where it was, we're both going to have to step forward eventually, but we're going to have the better positioning when you do. You're going to be walking right into Admiral, where our Reaper is set up. And all credit to Titans. They were able to adapt. They were able to turn it on their head. They were able to pressure Storm into using things like the Wraith Bomb early and take advantage of that absence that the Reaper had created to be able to push on to the rest of the team. The problem is they were going up against 5 ultimates in an overtime fight, and even though they pulled 3 of them in the fight before, they just didn't have the time to be able to regroup, to be able to challenge the rest of the others that were left.
That's a very good point, because yeah, at the end of the day, you're going against 5 ultimates, and really you're relying on either Florida Mayhem to screw it up, or you have to, press the gas and really get that win. But, obviously player of the match is going to be someone, simply because this guy was spectacular on pretty much every hero he played, whether it be the Zarya, whether it be the Sigma, and people expect this guy to be a great Winston player, but do they expect to be as good as he was on other characters?
Yeah, I mean, that's the first step on the road to a full season MVP, as I'm sure the desk will agree. He had an absolute stellar showing. Like you said, having that flexibility, a lot of people were like, okay, Mayhem have to be locked in as a dive team because they have someone and he is just a Winston player. But having that flexibility, especially for these teams to be able to go through so many different compositions in one map, is just absolutely massive, because it means if you want to just turn around and throw a curveball into the mix for your opponents to have to try and figure out how to adapt around it onto the fly, you have the means to be able to do so. And look at the guy. Per 10 minutes, as a tank player, he died 1.8 times. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, like you see Tracer players with that same stat line, Moxie. I mean, what do you expect out of this guy? I mean, he's just doing so much at the current moment. You called that he's just so good at the current moment, and the entirety of Florida Mayhem as a unit just did so many things right, trying to pick off stagger kills, trying to engage at the right possible times. On the flip side for the Vancouver Titans, I think that they did a good job attempting to stop someone and the Florida Mayhem, but when the star power is too powerful, it's very hard to shut them out.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Vancouver Titans, like, this is a team I think a lot of people were maybe concerned with heading in. We were like, okay, well, are we really going to see Titans reach the highs that they've had in the past? But it definitely looks like, given time, they're going to be able to build into that synergy.
And they will, and whose synergy is still being built is our brand new desk. We'll have to see what they think about that match. I'm curious how badly the Titans are going to be poopied on by Jake.
Welcome to the Watchpoint Post Show, everyone. Here to wrap up day number 1 of the 2023 season are, of course, Danny, Jake, and Jonathan, and my humble self, Zoe. And we're going to put a bow on everything that went down today. But first things first, let's talk about the last match of the day. Florida Mayhem ain't messing around. They came here to play. However, starting on Havana, Vancouver really started to put up a fight there. Are you going to poopy on them?
No, I mean,
like Dogman just announced.
This is, I would say, it's a solid performance. It's what I expected, to be honest, out of the Titans. I thought they'd be able to put up a fight, and they did. They made it really close. I think they did kind of slip up, let Coliseum slip through their fingers. Who knows what would have happened if they had managed to send it to a map 5. So I think definitely signs of life for the Titans. An impressive showing against the team who has looked like one of the strongest so far in what we've seen this season of the Overwatch League and this iteration of Florida Mayhem's roster. So I have no complaints for the Vancouver Titans. Keep grinding. They're newer together. They got to build the synergy, but real signs of life and some impressive performances from the young rookie Sugar Free.
Absolutely.
They definitely had their moments, but hey, Florida Mayhem, man.
Mayhem, man.
Mayhem, man.
Looking good.
They're looking clean.
Yeah, no, so I think it bodes well for both of those teams heading into the season. It's a great first showing, now reinforced heading into this match. You were talking about someone trying to, start his MVP campaign, or rather role star campaign. Like he
Yeah,
was
that
a
is
little
all
more
about the
far-fetched.
MVP. That is all about the MVP.
You started small here with the role star campaign. Does he have your vote yet, or not impressed?
It was exactly what I wanted to see from someone, and I've been hyping him up since before the Pro-Am at this point. I really do think that this could be the breakout year for someone, especially for Role Star, because we don't truly have a super flex when it comes to tank. Being able to play Winston and Reinhardt at an extremely high level, combined with the Zarya that we saw someone come out with here. The Winston, of course, on Hollywood, it was spectacular. He's a fantastic Winston player. But then also we go over to Havana. We see someone playing Sigma at a really high level. We saw some fluxes come through, avoiding the accretion from Punk on the enemy side, of course. So someone with this flexibility, being able to play so many heroes at such a high level, it's extremely impressive. And I don't think there's like truly a counterpart, a former main tank player who now has picked up proficiency at these, who used to be referred as off-tank heroes, right? The more mechanically intense tank heroes. So someone, I think it's a great start to his campaign for Role Star. This is exactly what I wanted to see.
I love that for you, Jonathan.
So happy.
It makes me happy.
Delighted.
Delighted. You know what? We're in luck, because we have the man, the myth, the legend.
No way!
By for a winner's interview.
Wow.
So Jonathan, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Jonathan, this one's for you. All right.
It's
someone.
him! Timothy!
Someone, congratulations on getting the win. Now, I do have to start this interview by asking you, because this is your second year with the Florida Mayhem. So I want to ask you, what was your biggest takeaway from your rookie year with the Florida Mayhem? 자, 오늘 일단 승리를 축하드리면서요. 일단 첫 번째 질문은 우리 서먼 선수가 이번에 이제 드디어 플로리다 팀에 이제 2년 연속으로 이제 다시 또 돌아오시게 되셨는데, 작년 첫 번째 오버워치 리그 시즌에서 제일 좀 크게 와닿던 거나 아니면 좀 제일 크게 배운 점이 있다면 뭐가 있을까요?
일단은 제가 컨텐더스에 있을 때나 이제 그럴 때는 잘 몰랐는데, 이제 리그에서 뛰어보니까 이제 저는 이제 살짝 제가 잘 못하거나 말렸을 때 그 복구하는 능력이 살짝 부족했다는 걸 깨달았고, 이제 말렸을 때 좀 더 해결하는 방법을 리그하면서 좀 많이 배웠던 것 같아요.
I think the biggest takeaway for me from my rookie years was, I actually didn't know this when I was in Contenders, but playing playing in the Overwatch League for a year, I did realize whenever something didn't go the right way in talking about my, I guess, plays during a match, it was really hard for me to come back. So that was one of the biggest takeaways and biggest learning points that I needed to sort of find a way for myself to, I guess, fix coming back into the game whenever I make a mistake. All right. I also do want to ask you about sort of your tank plays as well. I remember during the Pro-Am, when you mentioned that, during the offseason, you focused on, I guess, deepening your hero pool. And it really showed today in today's match as well. So I just want to hear from you. What's your current, favorite tank hero that you play? 자, 일단 두 번째 질문으로 넘어가자면은, 저희 프로그램에서였죠. 저희 서먼 선수가 저한테 이제 인터뷰를 했을 때, 이번 오프 시즌에서는 좀 이렇게 다양한 탱크 영웅들을 다 전체적으로 잘하고 싶다라고 말씀을 하셨는데, 그게 좀 많이 오늘 경기에서 보여진 것 같습니다. 서먼 선수, 이번 지금 현 상황에서 제일 좀 재밌게 플레이를 하는 탱크 영웅이 있다면 뭐가 있을까요?
지금 현 시점에서는 솔직히 저는 아직도 윈스턴이 제일 재밌는 것 같아요. 그 이유는 그냥 이 다른 캐릭터는 좀 더 수동적인 게 많은데, 윈스턴은 수동적이면서 자기가 할 수 있는 것처럼 이제 유동적인 것도 할 수 있기 때문에, 점프팩을 이용해서. 그래서 제가 선택할 수 있는 게 많은 캐릭이어서 좀 좋아하는 것 같습니다.
I do have to pick Winston. I think Winston is a special hero because, with utilizing the jump pack or just the movement, you have a lot more mobility, so you have a lot more freedom to sort of maneuver around the map and inside the game as well. So I pick Winston as my favorite hero. Winston is my favorite hero currently as well. 저도 윈스턴을 굉장히 즐겨하고 있습니다. All right, I'm going to wrap up the interview here. Thank you so much for your time, and again, big congratulations on the win. 자, 승리 다시 한번 축하드리면서 인터뷰 마치도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, someone. Yeah, you heard it. Yeah, what was that?
There was false in the back?
There was false.
That was
I saw Vancouver jersey.
a cardboard cutout.
What's it a cardboard? That's what I was wondering the whole time. Is that a remnant of a graphics, or is that?
They just beat the Titans, and they had a former.
They had them ready.
Why do they have a cardboard cutout of? Vancouver
You guys,
Titans.
you guys should have
Mysteries,
just
we
jumped in. I saw it and I was like, do I mention this or do I not mention this?
You get psyched up before the match, like, this is
I
your
was like-
opponent. You ready? Well, this year.
You gotta visualize the enemy, right?
Oh, wait, okay. Next time Florida plays, I will ask them, like, what was that all
what's going
about?
on here?
What was that all about?
All right, Detective Danny's on the case for now. Let's just take a look back at what happened today. Looking at the scores of day number 1 and all the matches that we played. Feels like an eternity ago since we started the day. And also not, somehow. Weird.
That was a while ago.
Weird how
Great
it's gone.
first day of matches.
Time is a strange concept, guys. Anyway, Shock and Defiant, the first one was a banger. That was the great opening of the day. Both teams showing that they came here to play, this season. Lots to look forward to. The second match of the day between Washington Justice and the London Spitfire went in favor of the Washington Justice with a 3-1 score. And the Vancouver Titans tried to clap back, but Florida Mayhem was just too big a Titan to topple over, and they did not quite manage. But that is just day 1 of
Many to come. How many?
hundreds, probably.
Is it hundreds?
Yeah, hundreds of days. So many great moments.
No,
and numbers
surely
are
not.
really not my strong
it is.
suit. What I am good at, though, is talking about highlights. And there is no shortage of
highlights.
such things in the Overwatch League. Day number 1 is done and dusted, but we got some headlines here. Jake, what was the big shiny thing for you today?
For me, what I was most excited to see today was the performances from our rookies. So many young players coming into the league. That's something that I was expecting to see with Overwatch 2 and is continuing to bear fruit as time goes on. We've seen a lot of rookies coming in. John Bin here on the Shock, looking absolutely elite tier on the tank role in the Overwatch League. A very difficult task for a player with less experience at this elite level. I mean, I think this is one of the hardest roles to adapt to, this high pace of play. Lethal as well on the London Spitfire proved as a great addition for the team, was producing really well on the Tracer, letting Sparker and Backbone stick with more comfort heroes. Although London didn't pick up the series, I do think he's a great addition. And then, of course, to round it out, we've also got Sugar Free, who's a player I think we've been all waiting to see. Really, I think he was the reason they were able to clutch up and take Havana, almost send it to a map 5 with great performances on Coliseum. So again, I think all these players are going to be exciting to watch. It's awesome to see new talent in the league.
Couldn't agree more. Now, Reinforce, I'm seeing a prediction diff right there. So I'm excited for this
come
headline. I
on, Johnny,
personally am
really?
excited.
Look, what can I say? Jake is hyping up the rookies. Well, not all rookies won today. Fella Jake here, bit of a loss here. The prediction game is hard. It's ruthless out here on the prediction streets. Me and Zoe off to a good start. Fist bump over there. No, we can't.
I can reach.
That's not
I will
happening.
reach this.
Oh my.
We did it.
Go.
We did it.
The
Yeah, there you go.
commitment.
Starting off 3-0 this season.
We'll come back.
Nice.
We'll come back. We'll come back.
I'm so glad
season.
Costa's not here.
season.
Costa's out of the
One
mix. Don't need him just like wreaking havoc on the desk.
There is
quite
definitely a
satisfied.
chance that you completely fall behind and lose it all. So I think,
chance.
this is a good opportunity.
Embrace it now.
Embrace it now. Celebrate what you can, because you really don't know what tomorrow brings.
So long.
We're gonna come
Yeah.
back to this. End of the season, please.
Yeah, this might not age very well.
We're gonna come back to this.
Let's get this
Okay.
recorded. Let's
Yeah.
get the clips for now. I want all the Johnny gloating clips.
Yeah.
We'll save those for a future
Clip
segment.
it
Production.
and save them. That's for sure. Danny, what stood out to you?
Florida man.
Yeah.
Like I said, Florida man. They're just built different. Like everyone, like we talked how great someone is, right? And he is just fantastic player. But every single, I guess, player on that team is just phenomenal. Like I think I was, what Merit of course was popping off, was Checkmate as well.
Yeah.
Sombra, I think on Havana especially, he had some crucial hacks that really, I'd say, not sort of, they lost that match, but I mean at the same time, Checkmate was just popping
He
off.
was dropping big plays.
Yeah, he made some crazy plays.
It's a good
just
team.
Overall, general, like I know going into this match, like I was like, hey, like can they keep up the momentum from Pro-Am? And they definitely did, and they are keeping the ball going.
They're so good.
Yeah, and they're fun to watch as well, because
Yeah.
they come in with that aggression. Someone's aggression in the past has been punished, but I feel like the team is really on the same page, so they really enable that kind of play style for him, and that is just so much fun to watch. So more of that, please. Now, my headline of the day has to be the big announcement we made in the pre-show. That is, of course, that the Mid-Season Madness will be coming to you live from Korea, from Seoul. We are heading to Korea, and I couldn't be happier about that. So make sure to mark your calendars. That is you know, eyes on the prize has always been like the grand finals. But with $900,000 on the line and such a phenomenal location to celebrate, like that's the interim goal. Like that's where all the players want to be ending up at for this spring stage. So I am as excited as can be. Make sure, of course, to grab your tickets. They will go on sale on May 15th, which is soon TM. I don't actually have a watch, but I just
You fooled me, actually.
got him.
A month? No, less than a month.
That's not. No one said a month. Literally, no one said that. Again, time, strange construct. I only think as far ahead as tomorrow, and that's
Same.
yeah. So let's take a look at tomorrow's schedule. Let's start there. Let's start slow. Great transition.
segue.
Love that.
wow.
You're a pro.
I'm a pro. Like, let's be
good.
real. You aren't we? But yeah, this is the schedule for tomorrow. We're going to start off with Atlanta Reign and the New York Excelsior. Atlanta Reign has been another giant in the pro-am. Let's see if they can get that momentum going. Yes will be my answer to that. Afterwards, Houston Outlaws on the Gladiators. And then the last match of the day will be Vancouver Titans and the LA Valiant. It's got to be the middle match here, guys.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the big one to look out for.
Jake, it's your match.
big one.
Hey,
All right,
Jake.
this one's tugging on my heartstrings. You know, I don't know. Like, I of course, you guys know I'm biased for the Houston Outlaws, but I also gotta show some love to my man Dante. You know, we converted him to a tank player last season.
And last row?
He's been performing a lot last row as well. Just it's I got friends on both sides. This is it's gonna be a tough one for me to watch, but of course I'm gonna be glued to my screen.
I was just about to say though, do you have a favorite child just between us and everyone watching?
just
It's gonna
between
be-
us.
just-
We're done. We're done. We're not live anymore.
Oh, guys, I can't. You have to watch. You have to see my prediction tomorrow. I don't know. I can't decide.
He's gonna do all night.
Yeah, I
He's
don't
gonna
know.
keep him up all night.
I don't know. I don't want to watch, but I'm gonna, and I just can't miss it. It's one of those games.
I did have, before we move on as well, I did have one more headline that just quickly happened on social media. Someone commented that this is, historically speaking, the most attractive Overwatch League desk in history.